happy Friday morning to you. So Democrats hoping to take control of Congress are uniting in a battleground state. Today, Michigan Democrats rallying together behind the winner of this week's Senate primary, and that is progressive Abdul El-Sayed. He will face Republican Mike Rogers in the fall, with our partners at DDHQ now forecasting El-Sayed with a 55% chance of winning. Mills Hayes joins me now in studio. And Mills, this is all about moderates and progressives showing that they can come together and unite over this.
Right, and those poll numbers look a lot better than they did about a week ago, because they weren't showing that he was going to be doing that well against Republican Mike Rogers, but now the poll are in his favor, and the party is trying to put aside their differences and come together to make sure that their Senate seat stays blue. Tonight, One Team Michigan is planning an election rally featuring this Tuesday's winners: Abdul El-Sayed for Senate, Jocelyn Benson for Governor, Garland Gilchrist for Secretary of State, and Attorney General candidate Eli Savit, with a guest appearance by former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. While some of their policies may have differed, the Democratic candidates agree that they have to win November's primary or November's election, and they are collectively going after President Trump's policies and his administration. After the heated election leading up to the results of Tuesday's election, they want voters to see the nominees supporting each other and their policies. And after losing her Senate bid on Tuesday, Congresswoman Haley Stevens posted a photo of herself hugging her former opponent, nominee Abdul El-Sayed, and said, quote, "Friends, I want to thank you for your support in this race. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you who stepped up to fight for a stronger Michigan. Now it's time to come together to make sure that we beat Mike Rogers and keep Michigan blue. Let's go win." For his part, shortly after he was declared the nominee, Dr. Abdul El-Sayed was at a rally encouraging party unity.
And I know that it was a bitter end to this very long primary, but I also know that Haley brings the best of herself to her work. She is one of the most committed public servants that you'll ever meet. She loves democracy like I love democracy. And whatever differences that we might have had in the primary, they pale in comparison to what unifies us.
In the past couple of days, we've seen President Trump go after Dr. Abdul El-Sayed, and we've seen him accuse him of hating Jews. And there are some Democrats who are backing Mike Rogers over El-Sayed, being critical of Israel, wanting to stop military aid from going there. But he did try to appeal to Jewish Michigan voters by saying that he stands with them. So we'll see. We're going to see a lot of this, back and forth with Republicans and Democrats over the next couple months for sure.
Yeah, we'll see what today's Kumbaya song sounds like amongst Democrats. Mills, thank you. Let me now bring in Julia Manchester, White House reporter for TheHill.com. Julia, happy Friday morning to you. You just penned this article. It dropped exactly 4 minutes ago. The article title reads, "Trump may be just what Michigan Democrats need after bruising primary." How so?
Look, Marky, it's interesting. Going back, I think, over the last 10 years, we've seen that Democrats have obviously united in their so-called hatred or pushback for President Trump. And it seems that maybe President Trump is the one factor that could bring together Abdul El-Sayed, the progressive wing of the party, and more moderate Democrats in Michigan, because they see Mike Rogers as someone who would be a rubber stamp for President Trump's agenda in the Senate on Capitol Hill. Now, it's unclear how, I guess, poignant this will be, or how much of a sticking point this will be going into November. But if there's one thing these candidates the base, the Democratic base on both sides of the base, the progressives and the moderates can agree on, it's that they need to defeat Donald Trump's agenda, and they see Mike Rogers as the face of that.
Something that was also just released just within the last 20 minutes or so, Trump just sat down with Punchbowl for a brand new interview. They just released that again just a few moments ago. Let me play a bit of sound from that, and here's the president.
They're hurting themselves because we don't want communists in our country. You got a lot of bad candidates on the other side. And it's one thing to win in a radical left area, an area that tends to be very much on the Democrats' side. But I don't think you can win on a general election with that. I just don't think the people are ready for it.
Julia, what do you make of his comments there, just as it pertains to your own reporting, and what other Republicans are telling you?
Well, look, President Trump is echoing what a lot of Republicans and even some Democrats have, those who have raised concerns about, that Abdul El-Sayed and some of these progressive candidates that have won their primaries don't have a big enough sway with more moderates and even independent swing voters to win a general election. Now, I will say that some Republicans did voice concerns to me that they are afraid that President Trump is maybe over amplifying this for Abdul El-Sayed and really making this choice in voters' minds more clear that it's not necessarily or maybe a race between Mike Rogers and Abdul El-Sayed, but President Trump seems to be making it a race between himself and Abdul El-Sayed. When he was out in Las Vegas, for example, just a few days ago, speaking at a no taxes on tips rally or a campaign style event, he spent a lot of time talking about Abdul El-Sayed and how he hates Israelis and how he hates Jewish people, accusing him of that, something that, obviously Abdul El-Sayed has pushed back on those claims of anti-Semitism against him. But I think there is some concern that he's making this binary choice for voters without Democrats and El-Sayed having to do anything. They're essentially sitting back. In fact, I thought it was really interesting, Markey, yesterday, in that President Trump said in a Truth Social post, he amplified El-Sayed's calls to nix the filibuster in an effort to pass the Save America Act. And El-Sayed retweeted it and said essentially, I couldn't have said it better than myself. So it's almost like this is becoming a dividing point maybe for Republicans and how President Trump is making this argument.
Yeah, and just to elaborate off your point there a bit more, Julia, you've got several Republican operatives who are saying that President Trump's comments about El-Sayed at a rally just this week in Las Vegas may end up hurting him. Just for everybody who may have missed that at home, this is what the president said.
The polls were wrong again last night when they thought it would be a landslide victory for a hater of Jews and a hater of Israel. When I watch Abdul, he's full of
Yeah, Julia, you think comments like this are going to end up doing the administration more harm than good?
I don't know about the administration, but maybe Republicans down the ballot in states like Michigan, and maybe by extension, yes, the administration, because we know that if the Republicans lose control of the House and or the Senate, it's going to be a lot more difficult for President Trump to push his agenda through. Look, it goes back to that point I just made. There is a concern among some Republicans that President Trump may be creating this binary choice between himself and Abdul El-Sayed. And remember, President Trump, even though he won Michigan in 2016 and then again in 2024, he has very low approval ratings in Michigan, hovering around 37%. There's also been some backlash in the state to his tariff policies, particularly over its impact on the automobile industry. So, with Trump making that choice and sort of, attaching himself to Mike Rogers' candidacy, I think there's a concern that that could backfire. That said, though, Mike Rogers has done, I think, a relatively good job of running as a Trump candidate while at the same time running as a moderate. He's walked that very fine line, and he objectively is a formidably good candidate. He only lost to Alyssa Slotkin, the now senator from Michigan, by 19,000 votes.
Yeah, and to your point about his approval rating in Michigan hovering around 37%, it was 45 when he first took office. So we'll see how all of this comes into play. And all eyes on Michigan today with the Democrats rallying behind El-Sayed. Julia Manchester, thanks so much for joining me this morning. We'll see you again in a bit.
Thank you.